Hello, everybody. One of the greatest organizations and well-known organizations in Northern Kentucky has been Brighton Center for a long time, and its leader is Tammy Weidinger. Tammy is president and CEO. You've run the organization for a long time. Thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Well, in Brighton Center, you and your leadership is well known, but maybe you could recap us for us. What is Brighton Center all about, and what do you do on a daily basis?
Sure. Well, our mission is to create opportunities for self-sufficiency for children, adults, and seniors as they go through life. We offer family support services, education, employment, and leadership, different activities and services for folks. So we really have the opportunity to serve people cradle to grave. And when you think about what we do every day, just from the standpoint of the people we serve, a big part of what we do is just stability, emergency assistance, getting folks shelter, trying to stabilize families so they can move to the next step in their lives. The second big area that we work in is kind of that life skills and educational part of teaching people new skills so that they can move forward, whether it's job training or recovery services or life skills. Any of that is in that skill building kind of area. And then the last kind of major area is building for the future. And maybe that's through homeownership, maybe that's through some kind of advancement within employment. But we really try to take people through all of those stages, depending on where they are, of course, but if they need to have some of those life skills to move on and to get to that self-sufficient point, we want to be there to do that.
And how many people do you have on your team?
I have about 180 people, but keep in mind, we've got a lot of residential programs too. So some of those programs have to be staffed 24/7. And we have a subsidiary corporation called Brighton Properties. A lot of people don't know about that. And that's where we have just under 300 units of affordable housing, most of which are for senior citizens. We just finished a redevelopment of our Saratoga Place apartment, so we're looking forward to the ribbon cutting for that.
Well, and that's amazing. So that safety net, again, in so many areas, you're able to do that, but do it in a very efficient way to support people. So now you've been dealing with COVID. Tell us a little bit how things have changed and maybe some of the things you're seeing that we may not otherwise see in the news, et cetera.
Absolutely. So like everybody else, we had to change on a dime. Within a couple of days, we went from typical services to really reinventing how we were available to the people we serve, or what we like to call our customers. So the first thing is we had to do a lot virtually, and that meant changing the way we worked and how we presented material to the people we serve. We had about 2/3 of our staff went to working virtually, a third stayed on providing essential services. But one of the big things that we needed to do right off the bat was emergency services. And so we created a drive-through in our parking lot because, of course, we really couldn't have a bunch of people inside of our buildings. Back then, it was sort of a total shutdown, stay-at-home sort of order. And I think that's one of the things that Brighton Center is sort of known for as in terms of the emergency. When something happens, we want to be ready to jump into whatever the situation is and make sure that we can get services out to folks. So we had all kinds of food, cleaning supplies, hygiene products. There's a lot about hand sanitizing and washing hands. A lot of people didn't have that kind of stuff at home, or they couldn't get it. That was the other problem, that you went into the grocery store and it wasn't even there. But probably since the middle of March, we've helped about 3,000 families with food and other emergency assistance. We've spent about $21,000 on food, as well as just tons of donations from local grocery stores, Free Store Food Bank, just lots of people chipping in and helping out. We've also helped about 155 families with rent and utilities, spent $55,000 on rent and utilities just since March. So this is way above and beyond what we normally do.
Just
and
not
that was
normal numbers.
Yeah, and that was just what was most important to people. I mean, I was out there in the line with folks as people would drive up, and I could hear some of the stories that people have of, some people walked in and lost their job that day, and it takes a while to get the unemployment or to get food stamps. Not, well, a lot of people don't have enough savings for a crisis like that. And so people would drive up and say, I lost my job today, or I have my job, but my wife lost her job, or, some variation on people losing significant. So we were able to at least take that worry of food off their mind, and the money that they did have, they could use for other expenses that they may have. So it was great that we were there for folks. We're continuing to do that because it is still an issue for folks, just that stabilizing piece of things. We've got to get people to a point where they can, get the food and the basic needs that they need for their family. But honestly, we really need to try to get people back on track at this point. I think
Sure.
we've sort of made that leap from, oh my gosh, this is a crisis, unexpected, nobody really thought it would last this long, to we're going to be living with this for a while. So what is it that we really need to do to prepare? And so, we've been talking with the families we serve and trying to think about how can we bring our typical services back on board in a way that meets their needs. We've had a lot of families say, hey, I got to get back to work. We need childcare. Well, our Bright Days and Early Scholars program opened up this past week on June 15th. I know you've had other folks talk about opening of childcare. We had about 30 to 40 families in each of our two centers come, and it's a little scary for people, not only themselves going back to work, but dropping your child off. But we've got strict guidelines, being very careful about all of that. We're also thinking about ways to continue to engage our youth. Summertime, kids are used to being able to go to camp programs and city parks and do all kinds of things that they're not able to do right now. So we have opened up some small group programming for our middle schoolers through our youth leadership development program. And we're also doing some like drop-off kits to young people so that they've got some activities that they can do either with small groups of friends or there in their own household. Because the kids are just starving for something to do. Kids are bored even when there's lots of things to do.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, so we want to keep them busy. We've also recognized that some of the things that we've always typically done, people still need, like job training. We've got to get people back into our job training program. We went to distance learning like right away, but now we're going to be bringing folks as of July 6th back into the Center for Employment Training to hone their skills and get into a new job area like medical assisting or health technology administration. Yeah, they need to get back on track. People want to get back on track. But they're trying to piece it all together and figure out what's going to happen in the future. What are their jobs? What's in store for them?
And how do they do it safely, right? I mean, that's all the balance you were working out.
Yeah. And taxes are the other thing. The whole income tax deadline was delayed until July 15th. We run the volunteer income tax program, in Northern Kentucky. And so we are taking drop-offs. If people have not done their taxes yet, we are by appointment allowing people to drop off their tax information to us so they can go on our website and get the number, but make an appointment. Because the dollars that come from the earned income tax credit could be a really nice way for people to be able to pay their rent in a pinch. And the other kind of specialized program that we have right now that can help people with money in their pocket is the Unemployed Bridge Program. So our financial wellness group is working with Kentucky Housing Corporation, and this is for people who have a loss of income, and it helps pay their mortgages, because we certainly don't want people to lose housing right now. Too hard to get back on track. So if you have, I think it's a 15% drop in your income, you may qualify for the Unemployed Bridge program, and that would be a significant help, and it can help up to 6 months of assistance with payment on a mortgage. So folks can come on our website at www.brightoncenter.com and get some of that contact information, because, you know, in any kind of emergency situation like this, there's always some specialized programs that pop up. And I think one of the real values that we bring, in addition to just providing lots of great services every day for folks, is that connection. Yeah. And making sure, so tell us, you know, people need to tell us what they need so that we can figure out what's out there where we can connect folks to whatever service it might be that they would benefit from.
So Tammy, there's so many things you do, and we've talked to many other organizations who do a lot of things as well. But is there a mindset, or is there a time frame of a typical customer, as you term, who uses the services of Brighton Center? Is it typically an average of months? I mean, I know residentially people might live in an apartment that you have for years, but in terms of emergency type of support, is it typically a certain number of days or months that you see the needed support? Let's say pre-COVID even.
Well, actually, you know, in terms of emergency assistance, people who are able-bodied typically only need emergency assistance maybe once, maybe twice, not usually a long period of time. Now, if folks are disabled, or they're trying to live on a fixed income, or they're a senior citizen, those folks we tend to see more over time, just because it's what the money that they get is not very much, and it's really hard to make it stretch. But once we get past that emergency assistance part of what we do, which is really just a part. I know sometimes when people think of Brighton Center, they think about that, you know, I dropped off clothes or I dropped off food. But actually, you know, the bulk of what we do is more in that area of building skills. You know, so people may be involved with our job training program for an entire year. And then they may go on to work with our financial wellness group, you know, towards some kind of stability with their housing or home ownership. And that could take another year, depending on where they are. Our Brighton Recovery Center for Women, that can be anywhere from 6 months to a year. So it really depends on where people are, what it is they need, and how long it takes them to work through whatever those steps are. But what we love to do is stay in touch with folks so we can see that progression. You know, it's just so great to see somebody, you know, learn to use a new skill and really use that to move their lives forward, and then come back. You know, we've hired a bunch of people from our programs. We just hired a graduate from our Center for Employment Training program to work in our finance office because they have a lot of skills. You know, people have a lot that they can contribute back to the community, and that's actually a part of our self-sufficiency continuum. People want to give back and give folks the opportunity to do that. Volunteering is another way. We see a lot of people wanting to come back and, you know, tutor or, you know, provide some kind of assistance to people that maybe they even were a part of a group with.
Well, one of the other things I've noticed, and you've now been doing this for, I believe, about 38 years, I understand, which obviously you started when you were 5.
Right.
But you've seen this track of training, of helping out in emergency situations, and then, of course, providing that kind of housing for individuals. But you also partner with other agencies, I know, to be the intake for different programs that they might have that they really don't have the staff to manage both intake and program facilitation. And we could talk about that separately, but it seems as though you've been doing that now for 38 years. It develops. Again, I thank you for your individual work, but also I want to congratulate you. Just this past week, you were honored by the Chamber, I believe, for the Judy Claibs Lifetime Achievement Award. And I know that they had to twist your arm for a couple of years to take it, but now with your impending exit from Brighton Center in retirement and Wanda Winkler taking over, I know that you finally agreed to accept it, I guess, was probably the behind the scenes there. So congratulations on that as well.
Well, it's hard to believe it's already been a lifetime at Brighton Center, but yeah, it was a real honor to receive that from Judy Claves and the Women's Initiative and all the other women that were honored that day. You know, it was
Absolutely.
a really nice event. But so there's so many great partners out there in this community, from other nonprofits to folks like the fiscal courts and the foundations and United Way. We work with so many different partners to make all this happen, because really that's what our families need. You know, we just all need to stay focused on what is it that people really need to make a difference in their lives and to have impact. And we know we can't be all things to all people. So it's a matter of how do we help each other. And that's how we're really going to make that difference, because people do need lots of levels of things. It's never just one thing that's going to lead to people's success and to help people get out of poverty,
Sure.
you know, and to make a real difference in their lives. So we really value all of those partnerships.
Well, you're obviously a model for it. Brighton Center has always been, you know, one of those leading organizations to do that great work and do it with a great deal of efficiency. So I do appreciate the work you're doing and have done. And on behalf of the entire community, I wish you the best in your coming retirement. And hopefully you're able to do some other, continue doing the great things you've always done.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate it.
You bet.